Hi there, how are you? Welcome to the June edition of the Simic Report. Now we're coming to you from a brand new location. Over the last 4 weeks, we have actually moved premises. So we've been at 629 Wynnum Road for 13 odd years, obviously under our previous brand. We're obviously now with Simic Estate Agents. An opportunity came where we could relocate into a standalone premises. So that's exactly where we are now, on the intersection of Bureau Street and Wynnum Road. Specifically, 657 Wynnum Road. You'll see the white property there. We're just finalising the last bits of fit out, the signage and whatnot, but if we do a decent enough job, you won't miss us there at the T section. So come and say hello. If we're not here, we're obviously floating around in appointments, but do feel free to pop in. Now let's dive straight into the month of June and what's happening in the sales activity and the property management space. What we'll do is we're going to break from tradition slightly. We're going to stay with sales instead of diving over to property management. We'll finish it off with the property management space. But June, first calendar month of winter. Here we go. It starts to get a bit chilly. Now, what also tends to happen is as it gets chilly, vendors in the sales world thinking it's probably not the right time to sell. Obviously, the market has been a bumper market right through the last quarter of 2020 into the first quarter of 2021. Traditionally, you'd see the market start to taper off as you typically head into a winter period, where owners tend to hold their properties and therefore start to come to market in spring. We expect that still to be the case, but what we think that's going to do, because it's been so busy through the first quarter of 2021 with the shortage of supply, because as we went through the first quarter, we hit April, market did come off a little bit. There was a number of properties or higher than the expectation through January through to March. In April, more stock came to market, gave buyers some options, started to ease the market slightly, but now as we head into the winter months, we are going to see that, and we've already seen examples of that, of stock getting tight again, but the number of buyers is still there in the marketplace. So we expect that pressure on prices to continue through the winter months, and then we'll head into the traditional selling period of spring. And then before we know it, Christmas will be around the corner. So that's what's happening in the sales space. Let's dive straight into property management. What's been happening in your world?
Well, in property management will be slightly different because our second peak is coming up. So January, February is our first peak. Our second peak is June, July. So we are heading towards that second peak now. Saying that, we have found that the rental market has been still quite strong. There are quite a large amount of tenants out there still wanting to rent properties and are still missing out. So our days on market within Simic Estate Agents is below 1 week. We are finding we are still getting multiple applications, properties rented out quite quickly, and it is definitely a reflection of how we are marketing our properties as well. So making sure that we are on all portals, we've got signboards at the front and professional photos make a huge difference as well. So it is definitely going to increase. We don't know what's going to happen obviously with what's going on with COVID in Melbourne with their lockdown. So there has been talk in regards to people coming up to Queensland because it's obviously a lot easier, not easier,
better
but
lifestyle.
better lifestyle. That can also definitely impact in the rental markets and obviously property sales and prices. So.
And it's a good point that you touch on there, because what we did see in that spur of activity we saw through the back end or last quarter of 2020, and that continued right through Christmas through the first quarter of 2021, was a significant influx of buyers that came up from interstate, particularly Victoria. I would say that 1 in 5 or 20% of buyers that I saw were interstate purchases. Of that 1 in 5 or the 20% of purchases that I did see, 90% of those were Melbourne. So I find that interesting that was as a result of their first series of lockdowns, namely their bigger one. Now that they've been thrust into another lockdown, it's interesting how many potential buyers are going to see this as a final straw. I've had enough, I'm going to head up to Queensland. So I think you're going to see a culmination of that, and that's what we're expecting to see towards the back end of this year, traditionally tying into the spring period, where we are expecting more stock to come to market. But at the moment, the demand versus that supply that's available is still heavily in favour of there's a larger number of buyers who are going to purchase than there is stock available. So we believe that will continue through the balance of the year, and that's all being underpinned by record low interest rates and the indication that they're going to hold like that for a number of years to come. So I think they're talking 2023 or 2024 before they start to see rates start to rise. So interesting times, but it's a buoyant market by any stretch. If you do have any questions with regards to sales or property management, feel free to give us a call here at the office at our brand new location at 657 Wynnum Road. Number stays the same as far as the telephone number, 36384700. Otherwise, we look forward to having a chat to you in the July edition of the Simic Report. We'll see you then.